Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. Different video this time, an unboxing and hopefully some form of a review of the new Workzone Palm Router from Aldi's. These are brand new into their stores. Today is Monday. I believe these were released in the stores on Friday. When this was first delivered, as soon as one of the guys brought it in and put it on my desk, it was just wrapped in like a plastic bag type thing, sort of thing like a lot of the couriers do. And I opened it there and then just to make sure that everything was okay. I mean, it's a nice, strong, fairly thick box, as you can see on the thickness here. My most annoyance about this is that even though this comes with a storage bag, often not, you want to keep your tools in a box because they store away nicely. Almost every parcel I have delivered from Hermes gets damaged in some way, and you can see here that we have literally a hole in the box there, so it's took quite an impact there. Now the good thing about this router, and I mean I have an ordinary full-size one, I don't do much router work and I really just wanted something for quick and easy small jobs. I believe the equivalent to this, if you went to someone like Screwfix, I believe Makita do one on their red range, which I presume is more for the hobbyist DIYer rather than the professional range. They start at something like £50–60. So this is well under half the price of the alternatives. This does come with a 3-year warranty. The main points on the box here: it's a 500-watt palm router. It's got a spindle lock, an on-off switch, replaceable brushes. Now that's a new one to me. I don't think I have any tools where you have to replace the brushes on, and it is just literally a case of unscrewing the side here, checking the brushes, and apparently you can buy replacement ones. And on here it says a micro depth adjustment, and I will come to that later on. The box itself seems, like I say, nice and strong and sturdy. As I say, I did open this earlier. This was actually outside the box, inside the plastic wrapping, just more or less my receipt for the delivery, and also there's a returns form should you need to send it back, and it's all free of charge for returns. So at £24.99 I got free delivery, and at the same time it's free if I want to send it back. In the box, the first thing is the user manual, and there's also a warranty conditions card, and should you need to fill out some warranty details if you have to return it back for a warranty issue. First thoughts on the manual: I honestly thought to start with it was going to be like a lot of these manuals you get, with lots of pictures and not really anything telling you what to do. But by the time you flip through the pictures, there are the usual safety instructions, about 3 or 4 pages of them, and then there are instructions on how to do everything with the router, for all the additional attachments and how to use it. So I've got to say the manual itself, I've got to say, is pretty good. So in the box, first of all, we've got the router, and first impressions of this are it feels a nice weight. You don't want something too light because you want something to obviously weigh down onto the work to push around. A full plastic design like a lot of tools are these days. The main body seems fine. How breakable this housing will be here will obviously time will tell on there, but it seems a nice thick plastic. Also in the box we have a nylon bag. Also in here we have a small box which has got all the accessories in. So in the box we have one router bit. I haven't actually measured that, but that looks something like probably about 4 to 6 mil diameter there. So for the accessories we have the base guide. I've never used one of these before. We have the extension guide, and that's what you normally get with a lot of standard routers, so that if you want a router out a certain distance from your workpiece. Now the other thing this also doubles up with as well is that you can actually use this to router out circles or arcs. And then we also have this, which is a template guide, and again I've never used one of these before. So the first thing really is a comparison of my standard router and the palm router, and you can see there is a massive size difference. Weight wise, I would say this is probably around about half the weight of this. And again, because you often not want to be holding this one-handed, you don't want anything too heavy. My other concern with this as well was the speed. This is one fixed level speed at something like about 33,000 RPM, whereas this one is fully adjustable, literally from almost nothing right up to a high rating as well. And I don't know whether I do it right or not, but I tend to use this fairly much on a low speed all the time. So you can see here we do actually have a nice long lead, and I'd say we are looking at around about the 2 metre range. Now the base plate comes off nice, quick and easy. It does seem a nice strong plastic, so hopefully it's going to last. For the actual main base plate itself, I mean, this is double layered, and the main reason this is double layered is that if you use this guide template, you basically have to take out these 4 screws to put this in place first of all, and then put the base plate back on, so that when you router out, you would then effectively, the router would run through, you would use this as a guide to run through your template. Now the thing it also had on the box as well was about the micro adjustment, which I believe is this thing here. And I've got to say that I don't really class that very much as a micro adjustment, because if you've got your piece on there, the router straight away drops straight down. So to do that slightly up and down, it's not, to me, a micro adjustment. Even if you hold it in your hand, to slide that up and down doesn't really work very well. It's just as easy to try and slide the whole thing up properly. The more expensive routers, as far as I'm aware, I haven't looked at them properly, will probably have like some form of a thumb screw which turns a mechanism which will actually move this up and down at a very more precise and easier increments. But as far as putting this on and off and the locking mechanism, all very quick. For the attachments, as I said, I've never used one of these before, but it basically slots in here, and you can then set that at your required height, so it has quite a range. And then you have a couple more locking nuts on here. One is a locking nut, and the other one will basically roll that guide in or out depending on how far you want to step back from your work, and then you can lock it back down in place. The other attachment, you have to use the locking screw first of all, and then on there you've got your distance guide to work from your the distance you want to be from your edge. So installing the router bits, I'm just going to use this one they sent with it, and as I said, I believe that's about a 6mm. It's take your base plate off, and the locking nut here is this slide in here, which does seem quite nice. It's just a case that you've got to hold it in place, whereas my larger router, it's just an arm that you hold across and you don't have to hold too much pressure on it. So this one does take a little bit more pressure. Drop your router bout in, not right at the bottom. Do up the collet, and straight away it's now ready for use. Now my next main concern was going to be the noise level. I haven't even tried to switch this on yet. On the technical specs of the machine, 33,500 RPM, collet size is 6.35mm, which is 1/4 inch, the weight 1.45 kilos, and the sound level, we have 2 down here, a weighted sound pressure and a weighted sound power, 81 or 92 decibels, which to me is loud. That is as loud as my compressor I've got down here, and I will do some comparisons shortly. So first thing, plugged in now, and we'll just see what this sounds like. And I've got to say, that's got quite some kick to it when I first switched it on. That is certainly not what you call a soft start. That is straight in at the 33,500 RPM. I have an app on my iPhone here, which, as we can see, does record the decibels. It's a free app. I'm not looking for anything that is totally accurate, but something that I can give as a guide between different types of machinery. I'm going to just place this on the side here so it's not right next to it, but it's sort of like working distance away from where you'd normally be from it. We hit a maximum there of 93 decibels. So I'm going to do a comparison now with my large router, and as I said, I normally run this on probably the slower speed or just up slightly. So I'm going to switch this back on again, so it's now recording the levels again. We're similar sort of distance away, and we'll run it on low to start with. Now that's quite surprising. I didn't think this was as loud as that. That's already hit 91.9, and this is on slow speed, so I'll wind this up through the high speed to see what this gets up to. (104.8 decibels as the maximum it hit. So the noise tests are just really there as a guide, just to hopefully give you an idea of sort of what the noise level of this is like. And as you probably heard, it's more of a whining noise because it's at such a high speed. So for usage wise, what I'm going to do, I've just picked up a piece of scrap pallet wood that I've got on my pile there, and I'm going to leave the bit probably fairly low like that. It's probably at about 3mm deep, and just going to try and router out something on here just to see how easy it is to go round, and I've just literally just drawn a C on there. And other than the initial burn mark where it's gone in, I've got to say that's very, very easy to use. The noise level at the whining, if you was using, I think if I was using it for a long time, I would certainly put ear defenders on or some form of ear protection. But certainly for moving that around was really, really easy. Now I've seen several people do videos where they've replaced this bottom plate and put a new piece of acrylic on there with a couple of handles to guide it around easier. And I've got to say that this was really easy to manoeuvre about. Now I've never used a base guide, and as far as I can tell, it works very much like the standard guide that you get with most routers. So I'm going to test this out on the edge here and see what this comes out like. And I've got to say, that is a really useful tool. It will totally follow the profile of your piece of wood. It's a bit like using these profile bits that you get when you usually do your edging. And at least this way you can put any type of bit in the router that you like. So I've just set the depth there. It's followed the contours on there and quite easy to go through. Now I've put the extension guide in here, which is what you find standard on with most routers, and the real big problem I find with these is often not the depth of these. When you want to work in from the edge of a piece of wood to do, say, like a straight line across there, these are fine if you've got a nice thick piece of wood, but I've got a thin piece of wood here, so I'm having to hang this over the edge of my working area so that these will run along the edge. So again, works absolutely fine. Get my burning point to start with, and I think a lot of that is because it's running at such a high speed, you're putting it into the work to locate first. If you was working straight from an edge to come right the way through, you probably wouldn't get that. So for £25, if it's something you just want as an extra or not going to use very often, I've got to say it seems a really good buy. The only drawbacks I find are, one, the speed. Having that fixed high speed can, to me, cause issues with the burning. I mean, please do suggest something if you find other ways of getting around that type of thing where you need to start somewhere on your work and then carry on. The micro adjustment, to be honest, is pretty useless. You can just as easily use your hand as a wedge on the side to bring it up and down. Seems to be a really strong, sturdy piece of kit. It's got a nice weight to it, a nice balance. The base seems nice. I wouldn't want to drop it because I think then this could well shatter. Locking that on here works fine. It's not as good as with my large router. The other thing I'm also finding on here as well is this is producing a lot of heat. I mean, I haven't used this very much at all. I've just really done those three things, and this is producing a lot of heat on there, and I can already see we're 32 degrees centigrade, which is quite warm, much hotter, and you will probably start burning yourself. Whether it gets hotter with much more use, I don't know, but my way of thinking at the moment, this is more for smaller projects where you don't want to be using it for hours on end. The other downside to me is having the brushes. Again, please do comment if you've had experience with using motors where you have to change the brushes. I'm used to brushless motors. You don't have to worry about anything on it, but it sounds like on this you're going to have to regularly inspect the size of the brushes and then replace them when necessary. I mean, the accessories that come with it are good and rigid. I'm really pleased with that. It's nice that they did actually include a router bit in there as well, so at least somebody can get on and get started with it. But if you haven't got a router, you really do need to go out and buy some bits. And this really brings me to the kit that I bought, and this was recommended by Dave on Dave G Designs. He did a thing on this a while ago now, which is what got me off to go and buy this. It's actually a Von House kit. It's a 35-piece kit, various different types of profile bits in here, of all sorts. It hasn't got everything. There's still odd pieces that I could probably do with. It was extremely cheap. I'm talking probably about £30, something like that, maybe 40 at the most. You can buy these off Amazon and eBay. Now, the thing what I found is afterwards, after I'd had it delivered, was if you actually go to their website, vonhouse.com, and I will put a link below, I found afterwards that I could have ordered these cheaper, and I can't remember whether they charged delivery or not, but the total cost would have been cheaper than buying off eBay and Amazon. So certainly do have a search around, and I've only used so far a couple of these bits, and I've got to say I was extremely pleased with them, but it really is a must to have extra accessories if you haven't got them. Just to finish off, for £25, if you haven't got a router, or if you just want one for odd little jobs, even as a secondary unit, I've got to say it's worthwhile money spent. Now, if you've got the cash to go off and go and buy something a lot better, then you can spend 3 times this amount and you will obviously improve on quality. But for those odd little jobs that you want just around the place, I've got to say, for £25, it's really good. Time will certainly tell as to how reliable this is over time. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next project video.